There are sacrifices that get applause, and then there are sacrifices that happen quietly, without recognition, without sympathy, and without anyone noticing they were made at all. Cristiano Ronaldo's career is often described through trophies, records, and historic moments, but the most defining sacrifices of his life are the ones he almost never talks about. Not because they're insignificant, but because talking about them would weaken the very discipline that made them necessary. One of the earliest silent sacrifices was normalcy, while others his age experienced freedom, spontaneity, and mistakes without consequences. Ronaldo gave that up very young. He didn't slowly drift away from my normal life. He cut ties with it deliberately. Nights out, careless habits, emotional indulgence, all of it had a cost he wasn't willing to pay. This isn't glamorous, it's isolating. And isolation is a price very few are willing to accept for a future that isn't guaranteed. Another sacrifice was emotional comfort. Ronaldo learned early that indulging emotions comes at the expense of control. He still feels deeply, but he doesn't let those feelings dictate behavior. That means swallowing frustration instead of expressing it freely, moving on quickly from joy instead of celebrating it endlessly, carrying disappointment internally without public release. Over time, this builds strength, but it also builds weight. Emotional restraint is exhausting, and he chose it anyway. He also sacrificed being understood. Many people want to be admired, but they want to be understood even more. Ronaldo accepted that his standards, routines, and mentality would often be misinterpreted as arrogance, obsession, or coldness. Explaining himself would have softened that misunderstanding, but it would also have opened the door to compromise. He chose silence over justification. Being misunderstood was the cost of staying uncompromising. Privacy is another silent loss. Fame takes visibility, but discipline demands even more exposure. Every habit, every decision, every fluctuation is observed, judged, and analyzed. Ronaldo doesn't get to experiment in private. Mistakes are public. Adjustments are scrutinized. This creates constant psychological pressure. Most people grow through trial and error quietly. He grew with an audience watching every step. Relationships are another area where sacrifice is rarely acknowledged. Maintaining elite discipline means living on a schedule that leaves little room for emotional flexibility. Time becomes rigid. Energy becomes guarded. Not everyone can live inside that structure. Ronaldo has had to accept distance, missed moments, and fractured connections as collateral damage. Choosing greatness often means choosing absence, and absence has consequences. He also sacrificed indulgence. Food is fuel, not pleasure. Rest is recovery, not escape. Celebration is brief, not extended. Over time, denying indulgence becomes automatic, but it never becomes effortless. There is always a part of the human experience being restrained. Most people reward themselves to cope with pressure. Ronaldo denied himself relief to stay sharp. That's a heavy exchange. Another silent sacrifice is mental ease. His mind is never fully off. Even in rest, awareness remains. Metrics, signals, adjustments, reflection. This level of vigilance protects performance, but it prevents true mental looseness. The luxury of disengagement is something he rarely allows himself. That constant alertness accumulates over years. Halfway through this, pause and reflect honestly. Which of these sacrifices feels hardest to imagine living with long-term? If this perspective is opening your eyes to what elite success actually costs, this is a good moment to subscribe so you don't miss future deep dives like this. And leave a comment about which silent sacrifice you think people underestimate the most. He also sacrificed comparison-based happiness. Many people measure joy by how they rank against others. Ronaldo stepped away from that early. He measures himself against internal standards, not external validation. This protects consistency, but it removes easy satisfaction. Wins don't bring lasting relief. Records don't provide closure. The finish line keeps moving. Living this way means trading momentary happiness for long-term relevance. Another rarely discussed sacrifice is forgiveness toward himself. Ronaldo doesn't allow himself prolonged self-pity. Mistakes are analyzed, corrected, and archived. There is little room for emotional softness toward failure. This sharpens progress, but it also means carrying responsibility constantly. The mind never gets to say, "It's okay, it didn't matter." Everything matters. That intensity accumulates. He also gave up the option of mediocrity as a refuge. Most people can disappear for a while, slow down, blend in, reset quietly. Ronaldo doesn't have that exit. Once you commit to being exceptional publicly, anonymity disappears. There is no neutral gear. Every appearance carries expectation. That pressure never fully turns off. Even his body has been a site of sacrifice. Not injury alone, but denial. Denial of comfort, of rest when tired, of shortcuts when available. Listening to the body without indulging it requires constant judgment. Push too little and decline begins. Push too much and damage accumulates. Living in that narrow zone demands attention every day. What makes these sacrifices heavier is that they come without applause. No one celebrates the meal you didn't eat, the night you didn't enjoy, the emotion you didn't express, the relationship you couldn't fully nurture. These sacrifices don't show up in statistics. They don't trend. They simply compound quietly. Over time, these choices shaped a life that looks extraordinary from the outside but feels relentlessly structured from the inside. Ronaldo didn't stumble into greatness. He narrowed his life intentionally until only what served excellence remained. Everything else was trimmed away, not once, but continuously. The uncomfortable truth is this: most people admire Cristiano Ronaldo's results without wanting his constraints. They want the trophies without the silence, the records without the restraint, the longevity without the loneliness. But the results are inseparable from the sacrifices. So when you watch him lift another trophy or break another record, remember that you're not just seeing talent or effort. You're seeing years of quiet no's. No to comfort, no to distraction, no to explanation, no to ease. Before you go, think about this and be honest in the comments. What would you have to give up to pursue your highest standard consistently? And if you want more stories that reveal the unseen costs behind visible greatness, make sure you subscribe and stay with us. Because the most powerful sacrifices are the ones no one claps for, but everything depends on.